Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up to the line. Oh, blocked by James. With a new shot clock.
Oh, great no-look to Zizic, who puts it home.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Touchdown, Ohio State. And Curry has to back off as James throws it down.
Struck him out looking. That's his 10th strikeout of the night.
Braxton Miller is loose. Spin move! Miller headed for the end zone!
Edwin drills it. Deep left. It is gone, and the Indians win it.
Smith, alley-oop to James. Wow.
Next thing you go up initially, he's going to take a shot. Has Samir under it. Has his man Kaiser. Perfectly thrown pass to Gordon. Touchdown Cleveland.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on into the latest edition of the Chief Check-In here on the Real Sports Talk Show. Our semi-bi-weekly sort of occasional check-in on how the Cleveland Indians are doing this season, 2018. I'm your host, Kevin Rosser, with my co-host, as always, Paul Jakubek.
Hello.
Yes, today the Indians are sitting 10 games ahead of the Minnesota Twins at the moment. They are playing the Twins again tonight at 7 o'clock. 57 and 47 on the year so far. That's good enough to lead the American League Central by quite a bit, as I mentioned. Now, before the trade deadline passed, we had hoped for a couple bigger moves. Obviously, Brad Hand was a very good get, an all-star closer for the Padres, a very good left-handed reliever. Just another guy to throw in and be unselfish and share time, share save opportunities with Cody Allen and Andrew Miller once he's fully healthy, which he didn't look 100% over the last week. He's had a couple different opportunities. The other day when I watched him pitch, it just didn't look right. And Simber is the other guy that we got from the Padres. He's looked okay as far as submarine throwers go. His control is obviously always going to be somewhat of an issue when you have mechanics like that. But hopefully he can calm down a bit playing in the American League for the first time. Paul, what have your thoughts been on those two acquisitions before we get to the other one that was made before the trade deadline?
Well, to be honest, I knew Hand was going to come in, and I knew Hand was going to pitch good. I didn't think we were going to see the solid dominance that he's been for the past couple of years. And that's just because, it's a new setting. He really hasn't even had that much time to even pitch in Cleveland before. Same with Simber. So it's kind of all a change of scenery and stuff like that. And I would say probably within the next week or so is when we're going to start to fully see Brad Hand come out and just dominate. And almost like how we've seen Miller do in the past. And like we said, Miller has come back now, and Miller's joined the back end of that bullpen too. And with Cody Allen and Brad Hand mixed in with Andrew Miller, I mean, that's a huge, not only 1-2 punch to end the game, but you also have Miller that you can throw in the 6th inning. You can throw him in the 7th inning. You can throw him actually whenever you want. And with the postseason, that's what you're going to need. You're going to need those three guys to carry that bullpen. And right now, you haven't seen it, and, everything's kind of been shaky, but I think once we start to get towards the end of the season and we start to get into the postseason format, I think you're going to start to see these guys really start to heat up, really lock in. We're not going to see mechanical problems. This is it. This is what we have in the bullpen. I don't think we're making any more moves. What we got is what we got, and these guys got to lead us.
And that's the point I was going to get into next is the only move that we made before the trade deadline. Obviously, you can still make moves now for cash and through waivers and other things. But this was the main, usual, normal, quote-unquote, trade deadline already passed, and the only other guy that we got of note was Leonys Martin, center fielder from the Tigers that we got for a minor leaguer. We got another player along with him. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Martin was the main get, and he's impressed me so far. Had back-to-back home runs in his Progressive Field debut games, which was nice to see. Has made some good plays, including a great one tracking back and hitting the wall in deep left center, and still holding on while running into the wall, which is nice to see. Nice to see that he's already at least somewhat acclimated to Progressive Field. Playing in the American League Central, with the Tigers, he's probably played there several times.
He did make those plays, but he also did give up a triple because he did misplay a ball off the wall. Mm-hmm. So there's still a lot of time for him to get used to playing in Cleveland. There's still a lot of time for him to get used to batting in this lineup. He's probably not used to being in a lineup like this. Mm-hmm. It's not always as solid as it's been in his career. He's a solid player, and for the most part, people just need to realize that this guy was brought in because he is a very, very solid defensive player. He can hit. He's not that flashy with the bat, but he can hit, and he's very good with the glove. So as long as he's been being able to get his time out in center field, which he's going to, we don't have really anybody else other than Rajay, and Naquin's down now, Zimmer's out for the year, so he's going to get his time. And honestly, one of the things that I would like to add in with, even though it's not an addition, it is addition from the DL though, I really like how the outfield is with him, Brantley, and then having Melky Cabrera. And I've also seen the stat line for Brandon Guyer since he's come off the DL. He's been hot as hell, too. Mm-hmm. Cabrera flashing the leather. I mean, these guys have been solid. And I think Martin kind of just, with that defense ability that he's got, has so far kind of kept this defense and at a very solid high level. And it's going to continue, and it's going to get better throughout the year as he plays in center field longer.
Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by how Guyer has returned. It's tough losing a speed guy like Zimmer out there in center. That's probably the main reason why we had to trade for Leonys, if we're being honest, is, even though Zimmer wasn't the hold down guy in center that you wanted him to be, still going down an outfielder when you're trying to make a push for a division title and perhaps a pennant down the road, it's just one more thing that you got to worry about. And we were talking before the trade deadline about perhaps a guy like Adam Jones coming in, or some other more established veteran with a better bat perhaps, but still, we got what we got, and we had to be happy with what we have, because we're not going to get many free agents. We're not going to look into many other Edwin Encarnaciones, for that matter. Guys that are going to be willing to come to Cleveland as free agents. We got to make the best of what we can with our trades. And I believe strongly in the Indians front office and in their scouting system as well. They have done so well over our lifetimes with trades, not just in the last couple years, not just with the current front office, but it seems like every front office that the Indians have had, going back, through the early 90s and in the early 2000s even, the deals that they were making to set this roster up for success down the line, it's all finally clicking. There were years where it just wasn't clicking. The guys that you wanted to see make things work because they had so much promise weren't. And now you're seeing guys that you scouted like Lindor and Ramirez and Brantley and Kluber and Bauer finally coming into their own and all clicking at the exact same time and making a true contender out of this baseball team.
And the thing is what the franchise has been able to do, and they've always said this, and and the thing is I really agree with it, and people won't agree with it until you really kind of see these past couple of years. You never really got to see exactly what they were talking about. But the franchise has always said, if you're in contention, we'll spend the money. And there were a couple years where people were like, why are you guys not going out and making that big acquisition? Why not? I mean, there was a year, the biggest thing we did was get Mark Zabczynski, and he was not good. He was just a guy who was part of a team who won a World Series. So for us to be able now to go out there and see the likes of that famous CC Sabathia trade with Brantley. Brantley's now in one of the best, when he's fully healthy, one of the best left fielders in baseball. Mm-hmm. And you have him who's fully healthy now. You have Lindor who's came up through the farm system. Jose we got through the farm system. And the thing is like I was getting at was all of the GMs and, you know, everybody who's been through the entire line from top to bottom, they have always kept the farm system big. And we've always had one of the top farm systems. And one of the reasons why we have is because you were able to see what we just did. And that's you trade away those bigger pieces because now we're at that time where those players have come up through the farm system. Your core players have finally made it through. And now you trade away who you think could be your future. But now that you're in contention, you have to say goodbye to a Mejia. You have to say goodbye to those players like Sheffield's gone. He was gone 2 years ago when we traded Andrew Miller. And the reason why is because we are now in contention. Then from when we traded for Andrew Miller until the next couple of years, we are in dead contention to make it to the playoffs every year, and we are on a dead heartbeat for that World Series.
You can only collect talent and potential for so long before you have to make a big push to cash it in and make something out of it. Which was tough to see a guy like Mejia go because I know how good of a prospect he is. And I know based on future precedent with our farm system that he has the potential to be a great player, a great catcher for that matter, which I think he should stay as a catcher. But like you said, you have to make a push and you have to win now while you can, while you're in contention. And it's something that we don't get around here that often. There was a 40-year stretch for the Indians where they did not win a single playoff game. And that ended in 1995 with that poster you got on your wall with frickin' Tony Pena with a 13-inning walk-off in Game 1 of the ALDS in 95. Since then, it's been pretty good for the Cleveland baseball team, wouldn't you say? And it's been 20-plus years now of just, oh, we're almost there. Oh, we just got to keep building for a couple years down the line. That's how 95 felt, and 97, and 2001, and 2007, and 2016, and 2017. No, it has to be this year. How many more next years can we possibly have as an organization before we hit another dry spell?
Well, I mean, not really many, because at some point it's going to come a time where Lindor is going to be asking for that massive contract, and there's no way that the Indians are going to be able to pay for what he's asking. Lindor is going to be getting somewhere from the $150 million to $200 million deal. And it's not coming from the Indians. I don't know if it's going to be somewhere out west or if it's going to be the Yankees or the Red Sox. But somebody like that is going to take him. So no more Lindor. Jose at some point. I mean, this guy, we are literally paying Jose absolutely like nothing. And this guy has a chance to win an MVP this year. So I think next year you're going to start to see Miller's going to probably be gone. Cody Allen's probably going to be gone. Both of them are free agents, and who knows what if Miller comes back and has a lights out postseason. God knows what that contract is going to be that he gets. Cody Allen with the same thing. We might be able to snag a Cody Allen again. Who knows? But probably not. It's guaranteed that one of the two are going. Probably both. So you have to strike now. You have these players. You have everything. And, yeah, we may not have had that big trade, but we still have until the end of August to get players. August 31st is the last day for the waivers. So we have a chance to get some other players. I don't know who they could be. I think an Andrew McCutchen is a name to watch out for, and maybe another pitcher, but I think it's going to just be outfielders that we're going to be looking at. And I think it would be an Andrew McCutchen type player, which... Before I want to end this with, if anybody is curious with how the waiver wire works, it's just like if you do fantasy football, the first guy on the list, he gets top priority. And a lot of people are like, well, how are the Indians going to have top priority? Well, here's the thing. I'm only saying that based off of all of the teams that are going to be playoff eligible. So right now, the Indians have one of the worst records of playoff teams in the American League. So, and in the NL, all those teams, none of them really need outfield help like the Indians. So, the Indians do have the worst record out of the American League, and they might even have the worst out of all the teams, possible right now that are in the postseason. So they would have the first option to pick up an Andrew McCutchen or somebody like that.
Well, currently I made a mistake earlier. I don't know why I said their record was what it was. It's currently 62-49. They gave me wrong numbers for a moment. The only other team that's close as far as division leader with that many wins, the Phillies are sitting at 63-49, leading the East, and the Diamondbacks are sitting at 63-51, leading the West in the National League. The Indians are currently 62-49.
So they actually do, out of all the teams the playoffs started today, the Indians would have the worst record out of all the playoff teams then, right? Not counting wild card.
Correct. Yeah, and touching on wild cards for just a moment, the second wild card spot is going to be interesting because among the three teams that I feel still have a shot at the wild card, the Yankees, the A's, and the Mariners, the Yankees are obviously going to get in. They're not going to win the East. The Boston proved that with their recent 4-game sweep of them in Fenway. Even though it was away, the Yankees still struggled more than they should have. But between Oakland and Seattle, Seattle was a team, if you remember our first preseason show for the Indians, I thought they were going to be around 500. I liked a couple of the pieces that they had, but I thought that they were going to struggle to find any footing. And footing they have found at 65-48.
It's that bullpen.
It is that bullpen. And, obviously losing Robinson Cano to that suspension was big.
And he's about to be on the way back in now.
I thought that was going to kill their momentum. I don't think they're going to catch the Astros. They're 6.5 back on Houston right now, 2 games behind Oakland in the West. There's still time. I just don't see it happening. With how good Houston is, with how good their rotation is.
Do not sleep on the Oakland Athletics.
I'm not. And
that's all I'm saying about that.
But how many years have we as baseball fans in general been told, oh, don't sleep on the Oakland A's?
And guess what?
They're going to make some noise in the postseason,
and guess
they
what?
Always disappoint.
There's always that difference between people can say, well, football is football, basketball is basketball. There is an absolutely massive difference when you put baseball is baseball with those sports. So, last year, the Indians were supposed to be that team who makes it to the World Series. Got bounced in the first round. Why? Because guess what? The guy who won the Cy Young pitched awful because he was hurt. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Things like that happen. The Yankees, they've had this huge lineup. All they do is hit homers.
And strike
Things
out.
happen. They can get hurt. They just strike out all the time. They're going to lead the league in strikeouts probably. I'm pretty sure it's just the two, Stanton and Judge, are going to have 400 themselves. They already do probably. So for anybody I'm not an A's fan, of course. I've seen Moneyball. I'm a fan of Moneyball. That was awesome. But and I like to see teams like that succeed. Teams like that in the Indians, they're lower market teams and they're succeeding. It's nice to see. And I'm rooting for them because honestly, it would be nice to see them back in the postseason. But
not as nice as seeing the Mariners, who haven't.
And that is too. I would love to see the Mariners. They have
the
a
longest,
phenomenal story.
The longest active postseason drought in major professional sports.
They have a solid team out there. I'd like to see them. I would like to see Oakland. I would like to see a lot of teams. But I'm just telling you, out of the acquisitions of bringing in Familia to the A's and bringing in, I think they just brought in Doug Fister. Do not sleep, or Friars. They brought in Friars.
They did bring Matt Friars from the Tigers. Yes.
Do not sleep on Oakland. That's all I'm saying. I think you will see them when you're getting down to the very last week and who's in the playoff race. I think Oakland is going to be chomping at whoever the 2 seed is in the wild card.
But I won't count out the Yankees in that wild card game because anytime
they won it last year.
Yeah, you get that kind of lineup, and if they get a couple run lead going into the later half of the game, you throw out a closer that can throw 102 miles per hour like it's nothing in Aroldis Chapman, you're gonna have a bad time trying to come back against that.
Tell that to Rajai Davis.
Oh, gosh.
And Oakland doesn't have him. They had him last year, but they don't have him now. And guess what he did? He plays for the Indians again, and he has a lot of stolen bases, and he's not even an everyday player.
No, he's not. He's
top 5 in the AL.
He's so fast, especially for his age. Not even considering his age, he's one of the fastest guys in baseball.
I'll put money on it right now because I think it's safe to say the Indians have 42 games, or the magic number is 42 to lock up a playoff berth.
Uh-huh.
I think that you can almost guarantee the Indians are for sure in the playoffs at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go ahead and put this out there now. Don't ever count out Rajai Davis from having either a multi-stolen base playoff game, or 2, winning the game because of his legs in the playoffs. That's going to happen in the first round. I'm telling you, he's either going to have a multi-steal game or he's going to win the game either on a first to third play and then, you get a sac fly, whatever it is, or the guy's going to steal, second to third, bad throw or something. I don't know what it is, but he's going to do it. That's just the type of player he is. He reminds me of a Dave Roberts. When he gets on the field, it's almost storybook things are going to happen. We've seen it with Game 7.
Yeah, and, adding Leonis to that outfield in addition to Rajai, that's one of the things that I like about this team even more than I liked the 2016 team. Because you look at the backups that we had for that 2016 team versus the backups that we have for
everybody was hurt.
Everyone was hurt. Not only that, but you were having to rely on your utility infielder being Michael Martinez.
Everybody was hurt, though. He wouldn't had to play. I mean, we were missing Brantley. We were missing Yan Gomes. We were missing Carlos Carrasco. We were missing... There's some other people. I can't remember who now.
And yes, everyone was healthy, but I'm saying in addition to the health, the added depth, the bats I prefer greatly for our backups as opposed to the bats that we had in 2016 behind the starters. That's the point I was trying to make. But you do bring up an equally valid point of the injuries. Going without Carrasco, having to deal with Bauer while he was still trying to find his own. Which by the way, he just passed 200 strikeouts in a season.
He's phenomenal.
It's crazy to see because I really did see it coming from him this season. I knew he was going to find his own. I wasn't sure he was going to hit 200 strikeouts. I was thinking maybe around 190, 195, but he has just been throwing absolute heat, absolute fire this year, and good for him, good for us as a whole to have.
Well, the other thing, not only did he find command now for his fastball, the guy is one of the only people that I know of that I've heard on a broadcast that they told was Bauer has his own pitching, his own pitching thing in the basement at his house. And we all know that he's a huge nerd. He knows everything. And this guy has all the slow motion cameras and everything. This guy checks the rate of spin on every pitch. He checks the rotations. He does everything he can to better himself as a pitcher. And one of the biggest things is, like Ross has said a little bit ago, it's nice to have a guy come out of the bullpen who throws 102. But it's even better for a guy to come in who throws something that completely drops out of the floor of a batter's box and nobody knows how to hit anything that they're throwing. because anybody can hit a straight ball. But you throw a fastball with a little bit of movement because of a different way to hold the fastball, or you put a little bit of more pressure on one finger compared to the other, you're going to get a different movement. And for him to get movement on his fastball and for him to continue to get better on his secondary pitches, the guy's unhittable.
Yeah, you throw him in with Kluber, who is putting in another Cy Young caliber season. Carrasco's up there in wins as well. Shane Bieber, though, if we can talk about him for a moment as well, in his first, I think it's either his first 9 or first 10 major league starts, he's 6-2, and with the exception of one really bad outing against the Pirates, he's been great.
Well,
for all things considered, he is a solid fourth guy in the rotation.
Now, I don't know if he's going to make the postseason roster. They've already talked about if he's going to make it or not, which I think he's making a strong case for him to be on it. Now, with him, they did say they know exactly what happened, and with that Pittsburgh start, and Carl Willis saw it during the game, he said. He went out there and told him, hey, we're going to go ahead, we're going to finish what you got tonight, and then we're going to go ahead and get in the film room. All it was a mechanical issue. He comes back, his next start, he pitched great. He did give up a couple hits here and there, but he still pitched like the Shane Bieber that we saw before that Pirates game. So it's nice that you can have a guy who comes up, and when you have a young pitcher, you have to realize that when a young pitcher comes up, they don't have good command of their secondary pitches. This guy already has really good command of his secondary pitches, and he's only getting better, and he's still young. That is why I think, there were a couple rumors of, well, is Shane Bieber in trade talks? I don't think he was, because they know how good he is. They kept him away from Terry Francona for a reason. They did not want him to leave the minors because they know that once he got up here, he was going to stay, and that's what he's done.
I will riot, personally, if he misses out on the postseason roster in favor of Josh Tomlin.
Josh Tomlin's not on the postseason roster. There's no way in hell.
I don't know what would be going through Tito's mind to keep him on there.
I don't even know if he's going to make it through the rest of the year on the team. He did a double-A rehab start the other night, and in the first inning gave up like 3 homers, six runs. I don't even it was just terrible, and like a hit batter and a walk. It was absolutely awful.
It's sad to see, but at the same time,
I could care less.
But you can only dwell on it for so long. You have to focus on.
Never been a big fan of Josh Tomlin. He's been all he is a guy with a mediocre arm. He's got really good control, and once his control goes and he starts serving up meatballs, your career's over, and that's all he's done. So see ya.
You start serving up meatballs, you're gonna start serving up meals at a diner pretty soon.
There you go.
Be out of majors really quick, and that's shown pretty obviously with many other pitchers. Before we wrap things up, is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to in the next couple weeks with the Indians? Any big stories that you think could develop? Perhaps, will Andrew Miller return back to form? Do you think Martin will work his way up higher in the lineup, perhaps to the 7 spot?
I think that when you look at just going off of that one, I think Martin, I don't think you're ever going to see him or whoever the starting center fielder is leave the 9-hole. I think that him being in that 9-hole, he's got some speed, of course. I mean, you play center field, you got speed. You put him in that 9-hole and you get him to flip that lineup over to a Frankie Lindor and a Michael Brantley sitting there, when you get into the later on in the innings when the lineup starts to get mixed up. Or like the other night, now it did suck because I'm pretty sure he popped out or struck out. I don't remember what it was. But you might even get him to come up bases loaded. And he did that the other night. And of course, you're not putting him in the lineup going, oh man, I hope we get bases loaded with him coming up in the 9-hole. You just have him as a really good protection throughout that order to know that, he's still down there in the middle at the end of the lineup. And you can't just, Tito's trying to make it so there are no weak points. But I really do think that the team is, of course, going to stay solid. I don't think we're gonna see any. I thought we would have already seen a massive like landslide and losses, like if we went on a big losing streak. So I think we avoided that for this year. I know it's still early in the month of August, but I don't know. Like this team seems pretty solid all around. So just get the bullpen, and that's pretty much it. Just keep the bullpen going, and just keep everybody clicking on all cylinders. Don't take a night off.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing more from Brad Hand and more from Adam Simber. Simber. Pardon my enunciation. Simber.
Say it with me now.
I want to see as much from Hand and Simber as possible going forward.
Simber.
You want him to be comfortable and to be acclimated to the new weather because it's going to be cold.
You just
come
want him
October.
to. You want him to feel Simber. That's all you want.
I guess you could put it that way. Yes.
Phil Simber.
It's really important with any new acquisition that they get acclimated to the new stadium, the new city. You know, coming from San Diego, very warm weather year round, and there was a good stretch for the first couple months where it was freezing cold for baseball here in Cleveland, and I can only imagine the temperatures that it's going to drop to come ALDS time or going forward from that. So
nighttime in the fall in Cleveland, cold.
Yeah, that's not exactly rocket science or
Cold.
or even basic meteorological science.
Until you go to first pitch for game 1 of the ALDS, and it's gonna, or actually, I'm pretty sure it will be away.
It would be away. So game 3.
Game 3, and it's gonna be 79 out, and you're gonna be wearing a T-shirt to the game.
Yeah,
because it's Ohio weather. So either it's gonna be snowing, it's gonna be completely cold, or it's gonna be hot as hell. That's all it comes down to.
You gotta pack.
That's Ohio weather.
You gotta pack 2 different outfits.
Snow
to
boots,
the
a
clubhouse.
poncho, and a tank top.
Yep, couldn't have said it better myself.
Send them home.
Well, for Paul, for Foisey, editing these shows as always,
And everything else with the social media, damn it.
Oh yes,
Check us out on everything.
Check us out on everything. We'll try to have Foisey put links to Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, the iTunes podcast.
Keep the numbers going.
Keep the numbers going.
200 plus on the last video.
Oh yeah, we got quite a few views on the Urban Meyer video that we did. Some constructive criticism as well.
Rude.
Rude would be
don't
one.
care.
Yeah, I know you don't care, but any comments are appreciated. We're getting this thing going as best we can. Any
It's
viewer,
a process.
It is a process. Sam Hinkie, rest in peace. Yeah,
My cousin.
we're just trying to get things going, like we said. Get things as smooth as possible. Just 3 guys trying to make it work in the sports broadcasting world. Check us out any way you can. We'll put links in the description of the YouTube video so you can check us out however and wherever you go. Until next time, for Paul, for Foisey, I'm Kevin Rosser. This has been the Real Sports Talk Show.
Final seconds. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again.
This ball is